What is going on, everybody? If you don't know, now you do know. You're officially tuned into a very special edition of the HFWB podcast series. This is your host, Clifton Pope, and with me today, I have not one but two very special women who do so much for the community, which I had to bring them on because the importance of education, leadership, that we need to make sure that never gets lost in not just the previous generation from where each of these ladies come from, not just my generation, but generations to come going forward. If you don't know who these two women are that I'm talking about, you should. Please welcome to the HFWB podcast series, Miss Tina Butler and Simone Saunders. Welcome aboard, ladies.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Welcome. Thank you.
Of course, of course. Now, the question I have for each of y'all, just for everyone who's listening to the podcast, of course, give them a little bit of your background as far as what each of y'all do and where y'all come from.
Okay, me first. I'll go
Go
first.
ahead, Madam President.
Okay. Okay. My name is Simone Sanders. I am currently serving as the TABPHE-Corpus Christi president. TABPHE stands for the Texas Association of Black Personnel in Higher Education.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Simone, because I was just about to
Okay. Yeah.
appreciate that. For those who don't know what TAP stands for, Simone just explained it, but please
Yes.
continue.
Yes, it's a long acronym. So that's ABPHE, and that's pronounced TABPHE.
Yes.
I am the president and current president of my 2-year term. I previously served as treasurer and been president before years ago. But right now I'm in the first year of my 2-year term. Besides that, I work for the Texas General Land Office. I'm in government relations under Commissioner George P. Bush. I work and serve 7 counties down here in the Coastal Bend area. That's my full-time day-to-day job is working with our elected officials in our areas down here in the Coastal Bend. Besides that, on various boards, have previously served with the Black Chamber of Commerce here in Corpus Christi, have been on that board before now as well too. Besides that, serve on city commissions right now on the Corpus Christi Arts and Cultural Commission, and pretty much helping wherever I can around Corpus Christi.
Yes, that's a beautiful, well-respected thing within itself, Simone. But go ahead, Tina.
Okay, my name is Tina Butler. I'm born and raised here in Corpus Christi, Texas. I work at Del Mar College. I've been here approximately about 35 years. Kind of worked my way up. I currently serve as the Director of Resource Initiatives for Continuing Education. I'm also the immediate past president of TABPHE, and I served as president for approximately about 15 years. Currently the treasurer for TABPHE and the chair of the Juneteenth committee. I too serve on several nonprofits in the community. I've served on the YWCA board. I've served on the Corpus Christi Housing Authority. I mean, just a whole host of them. I currently serve on the State Board of Texas Grievance Committee. I'm also working with the League of Women Voters this year and last year. And like she said, just a whole host of things. Just try to help out in the community where we can. I'm one of the charter members for TABPHE. TABPHE was originally formed here at Del Mar College in 1995, 96. And that kind of happened when myself and another person, Miss Gloria Reed, attended a TABPHE state conference with a friend of ours, Dr. Helen Gurley. And after looking, at what the other chapters was doing across the state of Texas, we felt that that would be a good fit here at Del Mar College for our African American students.
That was just going to be basically my next question I had for each of y'all both. As far as y'all's involvement with TABPHE, How did that like originally started, and how does that influence y'all within y'all's own work that y'all do, each of y'all within the community within its own right?
Okay,
Okay.
you want me to
You wanna
start?
go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
well, I can do mine because yours will be longer. But I've if she's about when TABPHE started, at that time, I would be 14 or 15 years old.
Mhm.
She says 95 or 96. So I would go with her to her conferences and things that she went to. And that's pretty much how I got started with community involvement. I've been sitting on boards since age of 20, I believe. I think my first board was a board with the NAACP when I was 16 or 17. So what happened is, whenever she would join something, whenever my mother would join something, I'd end up helping in some way or somehow. Even if we talk about TABPHE at the time, they set up some meetings and had some meetings at Del Mar College, some of their first meetings to get students in and discuss student mentoring programs. Can't remember specifically what I helped with, but I know I helped with something, basically. If you talk about, Juneteenth Coalition, and it's been going on 15 or 16 years now, as far as, the whole Juneteenth calendar, and there was a whole coalition of women that were in leadership positions, that started that initiative. When they decided to start that, then I'm that young where I did the website, the first website that they had, the Juneteenth Coalition. So basically, I was just, with her when she would go to all these events and things like that, or board meetings and things of that nature. And I don't want to say voluntold, but that is the word that I use most of the time, is voluntold.
I like that.
Since you're sitting there and you know how to do this or that, how about you do this or that too? So that's how I got my original start. I was probably about 15 or 16 and got to attend and go out of town with her to these conferences, that are in other cities. And you get to see these, Black professionals that are administrators, professors, things like that. So it just made an impact, back then.
I see. I see. How would you respond to that, Tina?
Well, she wasn't voluntold. She was just told. No, she was actually younger than that, actually. Like I said, when myself and Gloria attended the state conference, and just to hear, what Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, Waco, all these other schools are doing with their students, and then to come here, back to Corpus, and we not have anything. So for instance, at that time, Del Mar did not recognize any cultural holidays. No Martin Luther King, no Juneteenth, no Black History Month, anything like that. And so we had a lot of African American students on campus that just didn't identify with what was happening, the other clubs, and then asking why not something for them, So
awareness.
yeah, exactly. So at that time, we were both support personnel, but we had Miss Dr. Helen Gurley, who was in administration. And so her wanting us to help her got us started. So we actually contacted all the Black faculty and staff here at the college to begin having meetings to see what could we do, to help our African American students here on campus. So we decided to form the TABPHE-CORPUS chapter, Del Mar chapter. And as we continue to grow, personnel from Texas A&M Kingsville asked if they could join us. And then we had personnel from Texas A&M Corpus Christi. So we then coined ourselves TABPHE-CORPUS-CHRISTI chapter, since we had personnel other than just Del Mar College.
Okay.
But the first initiative that we did do was a village. We called it the Village at Del Mar, and it was a mentoring program aimed at us, TABPHE, working with students from the time they come into Del Mar until the time that they graduate. There were a lot of resources that were available to the students that the African American students weren't aware of. They also needed assistance with, say, reading the catalog, selecting the right courses, based on their test scores and things of that nature. So we held an event on a Sunday in the music building, and we didn't really think we were going to get that many students on the Sunday, after church to come to the college. But we had about 50 in attendance. And so we sought out some of the faculty and staff here at Del Mar to become mentors one-on-one with students in their field that they work with. And so we actually partnered the students with their advisors, with their mentors who met with them every week. And then we had a quarterly meeting of everybody together. And like I say, it was just aimed at keeping them, on the right track, having a face to a name, and someone that they can go to on campus if they had concerns and needed assistance.
And it's crazy how far it's come to now where we are currently at this exact moment, which leads me to the grand Juneteenth 10-day of Jubilee calendar celebration. And I don't think people realize that this has been in the works for like the last 3-4 months, probably even longer than that.
Yeah.
I want you, Tina and Simone, I want y'all to explain to the people listening to the podcast right now the process of putting all of this together and bringing together, including myself and a bunch of talented individuals, all together for 10 days of celebrating basically the emancipation of enslaved African Americans, which is basically, this is what this is all about at the end of the day. Break that down as far as the entire process of putting this calendar together, and what does Juneteenth mean to each of y'all personally?
Okay, go ahead, you can go first.
Okay, Juneteenth to me means recognition of the past, as well as accomplishments by our ancestors.
Right.
And information regarding our ancestors, because even right now, people still don't have the true meaning of what Juneteenth means or why we celebrate it, put it like that. And I understand that because I get questions quite often from people who are from different states who have just, relocated. And the number one question is, why are we celebrating something that's late? Texas receives the message that the slaves were free 2 years after the emancipation was signed. But at the same time, that's when they received the message. They were free. So, the fact that we need to continue to spread that information, especially to our youth, and in light of Texas trying to remove things from, cultural events and things from the textbooks, and it's not just about Martin Luther King. There's other things that go on as well, and we need to continue to share that. Like our grandparents used to share stories with us of things that happened in their past. That's what Juneteenth is to me, that we continue to share that story so that it continues to live on.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I'm on the same wavelength as that as far as celebrating Juneteenth. The only thing I would add to that is the historical aspect of it. And we've tried to make sure that's something that we continue to include as well. So besides celebrating achievements, of African Americans now and in the past, I think Juneteenth was celebrated in Corpus Christi for years now. I've tried to do a little research, and we found pictures of individuals that we know, that participated in Juneteenth pageants and parades and things like that. And as far as how long Corpus Christi has actually been celebrating the holiday, we found pictures, dating back to 1913.
Wow.
So we found parade pictures. They had their own parade back then. Yeah, so some of those things are at the library here, at the local library, and they've been published in some works that Dr. Scott and another author published, African Americans in Corpus Christi, history of African Americans in Corpus Christi. But things like that are things that I like to include just to show that, that's something that we have always celebrated is, achievement and advancement. So I like including that component, myself too. You'll notice maybe on the TABPHE-Corpus Christi page, there are some posts that, show what happened to, the Black and African-American neighborhoods, over time. And then we post information about Juneteenth as well. So besides that, when we first started doing Juneteenth in 2018, that was my main focus, is making sure that people understood, we used to have an all-out celebration. There would be different parts, to Juneteenth, just like we have now. We've graduated to having, multiple days and things like that. My thing is making sure that people understand, this is not something that's new. They've been doing this for a long time. They have pageants, fashion shows, parades, things like that. So I want to get back to that. If that's what, they used to do back then, let's get back to what the celebration is about. So that's my little foundation on it, and why I wanted to make sure myself too that, we're having multiple days, is because, they used to do that back then.
Yes. And if I can add to that, Clifton, I mean, she was nowhere around during that time, but what it used to be called was Black Awareness Day. And that's what we would call it here. And that was the big thing, because at that time, African Americans lived on the north side, which is where 37 cut off at that time, the African American side of town. That was the only place where African Americans could own property and things like that. So the park, was near there. And so that was the big thing for the neighborhood, was to go to Juneteenth. And so, like she said, we had fashion shows. I mean, we had all kind of stuff. People would cook and bring food and share with others. It was picnic. It was a family fun day, water slides and all kinds of stuff like that. And it kind of, as, other people start hosting it, we kind of got away from that, and so that's why we're trying to bring that back, the coalition. And I want to thank Dr. Gloria Scott, because when she came to Corpus Christi, like Simone mentioned earlier, she contacted some of the Black leaders in the community and asked us to come together, which is how the Juneteenth Coalition was formed. And so what we tried to do was, make sure that the groups would put on something, but, we didn't want it to be on the same day. So that's why the coalition leaders were together. Like, you hold yours on that day, you hold yours on that, and then it became 10 days. But it's also representative of what history said. It took General Gordon Granger 10 days to arrive to Galveston with that message. So that's another reason for holding it for 10 days. And so now that she has turned over the baton to TABPHE as of last year to do the 10 days, we're still tweaking it, but we are still holding the 10 days of Juneteenth.
That is wonderful. And I just want to add to everything that each of y'all just said. First off, God bless Dr. Gloria Scott for putting that together, because if it wasn't for her, this probably wouldn't even be possible to begin with. Yeah. But I want to ask each of y'all this, as far as what would be like key piece of advice, as far as for someone who's listening who truly doesn't understand Juneteenth, what would be the key piece of advice that you tell them to have them get the best picture of this beautiful celebration that's about to happen?
And I always say that when we encounter people, especially last year, because I think it might have been 4 or 5 days, or it might have been shorter than that, before Juneteenth, when the national holiday was passed.
Right.
And I was sitting somewhere in a public place where there were a lot of people, and they were discussing what they were watching on TV. As you saw Biden and Kamala Harris, and everyone's taking pictures, he's signing and things like that. To ask questions. I always am insistent that if there's anything that you don't understand, or you're wondering, why are they having, this or that, or why is it going across 10 days, things like that, to ask questions. A lot of people it's a hindrance when people don't ask questions and they just wonder what something's about. So that's the key thing that I think is people need to ask questions. Even the biggest event last year, I think that happened was Herschel's Lazy Beach Day, besides the main festival.
Ooh.
And even there, there were people that showed up, that were friends of friends and things like that, but they didn't have an understanding of, okay, what is Juneteenth? Like, I see the signs and, I saw that Herschel's having something and I know him, but they didn't understand. So I know I ended up talking to more than a handful of people as soon as they came through the front door. And then even the people that were hosting, they had questions. Well, why do you guys have this or that? So that's my biggest thing is we're about, since we're educational association, the reason why I say, this was a great thing for us to take on is we're educating the public, and then we're educating our kids. Those things. So when we connected, I'm saying I want people to learn and have this components about, health and wellness. We're making sure that's a component and things like that. So I just want people to ask questions wherever they go, whatever they see us doing, things like that. Ask questions.
Okay, now what was the question again? I want people to take away from
what would be like your key piece of advice that you would tell someone to really have the best possible understanding of Juneteenth?
Okay. One would be about TABPHE. As Simone said, we're here for them. Even though we're now doing 10 days, TABPHE was already doing Juneteenth beginning 2018, and it was just for the weekend. Right. And the way that started is because, like I say, I'm born and raised here, and the Harbor Bridge project was coming through the Black neighborhood. So that's really how it got started. I knew 5 males from the ages of 50 through 55 that had passed away. And we've always known about the refinery in the area, causing cancer. But again, that was the only place African Americans could own property. So that's where the root of the African American community is. So our concentration at that time was to provide information about the relocation program, bring bankers and financiers there to explain what will happen if you sign this or if you sign that, and also medical attention. Since most of the time the women and kids go to the doctor and the men do not go as often. They're working, you can't take off or what have you. So we were bringing the medical attention to the neighborhood. And so as we started promoting that, more and more people started contacting us wanting to volunteer to provide service for this and that. So it became a festival, and we outgrew the park the first year. We had to move to Cole Park. And so one is every time they see TABPHE and what we do, our events are always educational and they're family oriented. That's our main goal. The thing that I want them to take away regarding Juneteenth, like Simone said, yes, ask questions. And I'm happy, like I said, last year I had a lady, Angela, walk up to me and ask, we were just over in the kids' play park and I see all this going on, like, and they saw the band. I'm like, what is this Juneteenth? And then even after that, explaining it to her, she's like, oh, well, I like to volunteer, to help or what have you. Even though our association is called Texas Association of Black Personnel, it does not have to be Black personnel. We do have people of other, races involved. As members, in our group, but that's a misconception that they see. But our vision and mission is for African American faculty, staff, and students. That's our vision and mission. And we serve as the voice for that because oftentimes we're not at the table. And so the more and more that we can get out there, communicate with our community, get those questions, and then bring that back, then things are being discussed and maybe things can come to be resolved.
That is as short, as simple, and straight to the point as you're going to get with everything. I love each of y'all's points, and I agree. And we're going to put together probably, in my opinion, probably the best 10-day celebration the city has seen. And
oh yeah, that's far.
I just want
Off the
to say,
train.
I
And
just want to
tickets.
I just
Yes,
wanna
please let them know. Tickets are on sale.
yes, yes. I want to thank you, Tina, and I want to thank you, Simone, just for first off putting this together and also just allowing myself and everyone else to even be a part of this. Thank you so much in regards to that. The time has come to where I'm basically gonna ask each of y'all basically a list of questions that I basically ask everyone who comes on the podcast. The first question that I have for you, Tina and Simone, what is the first thing each of y'all do or think of whenever y'all wake up every single morning?
First thing I need to do, check my phone and messages. That's what
Yeah. I will say ditto to that, especially I'm gonna say, are you talking about right now? Because
Yeah.
yes, my phone is ding, 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 ding. Yes.
It's
I'm getting calls right now with people saying, okay, I just bought my ticket. Are there any tables available? All kinds of stuff. So I'm gonna throw this plug right now, www.TABPHECC.org. That's where you go buy your tickets. There will be no tickets at the door. So go online to the TABPHE website. Everything is on there.
yes, everything is on there. Yes, indeed. I want to ask y'all this because I feel like you two are both definitely more than qualified to answer this question. What is y'all's personal definition of a leader in each of y'all's eyes?
I can definitely tell you mine. A leader is someone who will guide those who will follow, who has a vision, a mission, and a plan. You can't be a leader unless you have followers.
Yeah.
And you have to be someone that they want to follow, an all-inclusive person. But yes, someone that's wanting to make change. That's my definition.
Well, I would echo the same thing because as long as you mention the vision, mission, and plan, that's my key three things that a leader needs to have. You can't just decide that you want to have followers. You have to want to be a leader for a reason, basically. So I'd say the same thing, exactly what she said, because I've been in so many of these leadership programs that we have in Corpus Christi, and basically we always learn about servant leadership. And when I think about the leaders that we have here in Corpus Christi, besides making sure they have a vision, mission, and plan of what they want to see get done, they're also serving from the heart. They're making sure that they stay on target with that vision and mission. They're about the mission, not the accolades or anything else.
Yeah. Ditto. Love that.
Yes. Basically, my next question is, whenever y'all are doing everything that y'all are doing on a regular basis, what are some of y'all's personal favorite go-to hobbies y'all like to do?
I go to Houston, Texas.
And I'm in the passenger seat.
I love to travel. That's my navigator, her.
And I'm in the passenger seat.
Yeah, she don't like to drive. I love to drive. We both love to look at Food Network and see all the restaurants. So when we travel around the country, we make sure we look up that city and see if they were on Food Network, and we go to that restaurant.
That's beautiful.
Besides that, we do historical. I feel like we always include historical stuff, or we end up learning history. We even, traveled somewhere and then we connected with people and they're telling us about what Juneteenth is for them, which is called something else in like South Carolina, on the other coast, things like that. Besides that, I don't just travel. I also read a lot, and I'm a movie person. Movies, love movies, so go to the movies, things like that.
There's nothing wrong with everything that y'all just said. I love to do all those things as well, and I love it as well. But my last question I have for each of y'all, if y'all had the opportunity to go back 10 years ago and talk to yourself, what would you say? And where do you see yourself within the next 10 years?
Well, you're different, so I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first.
If I would say 10 years ago, back then, I wish I would have told myself to take the chances that I've taken within the past 3 or 4 years. I took a chance to, you know, change my profession, which is completely different from what I was doing before. What I was doing before was more emergency management and environmental. And now I applied for a job that I just didn't think I would get. But if I could have talked to myself, I would have reminded myself that's how I got the first job that I got. And just like my mother, you know, I've been at my agency 18 years. So it's been a long-term thing for myself as well. So if, you know, I'm talking to my 30-year-old self, I would have told myself back then to take more chances with that. As far as where I see myself in the next 10 years, I have goals, and my goals are still about making the things that I'm doing, you know, in my professional life, my job, and the things that I do with the city and the counties, make sure that serving our African-American communities. We don't see a lot of professionals, African-American professionals in high-ranking positions in Corpus Christi or Nueces County, period. So my goal is to a little bit further. I've discussed, you know, in my head, you know, maybe looking at seeing if I could do an elected official position or something like that. So that would be my goal for next 10 years, to do something like that.
Not a bad goal to have.
Wow. And if I could go back, I think that I probably would do everything the same way. And the reason being is, you know, I'm passionate about what I do, and especially when I'm working with students. And if I hadn't have done what I did then, I wouldn't be where I am now. You know, and God has a plan for us, and this is just my path. You know, so we just have to go with the flow. And as far as the next 10 years, definitely hope to be retired. I'm sure I'm not going to just sit somewhere. You know, I have to move around and be busy, but I won't be doing full time. But I see TABPHE growing, and so I'm sure I'll be doing more with that as I'm retired. But also probably just looking at my daughter getting into office, you know, and being there by her side and being there with her to see the fruits of my labor is prospering.
And that's what it's all about. We passing it down and continuing to let it grow. I love what each of y'all are doing. Miss Tina Butler, Miss Simone Sanders, thank you so much for coming on this episode of the HFWB podcast series. Where can the people get in contact with you and find out about all the wonderful events coming forward?
Okay, you go, Madam President.
Okay. We have both Facebook page. On Facebook, you can look up TABPHE Corpus Christi, and that's still the TABPHE acronym Corpus Christi. Everything's been updated on Facebook as far as the events and links to all of the events. They're published on there, as well as Eventbrite is another avenue to look at. If you look at what's going on in Corpus Christi, all of our events will come up as far as June is concerned. And then our website as well. Like she said before, if you go to the landing page, homepage of our website at tabphecc.org, you'll find links to the 10 days, and then you'll pull up the calendar, and then every event on the calendar, every flyer, every event link for each of the flyers or the organizations. You can find health, fitness, wealth, business on there. You can find every organization, every link for those pages is on the website. And besides the 10 days, there's also a landing page, and it's the tabphecc.org/Juneteenth. That's the actual landing page to make it real simple.
Go check it out. You do not want to miss out on any of what's to come. And I'm telling you, this 10-day celebration is going to be one for the books. I'm just going to let y'all know. And thank you once again, Tina and Simone, for just being on this episode of the podcast series and just taking time out of y'all's busy schedule just to make this happen. This is definitely one for the books. I'm honored and I truly appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for everyone listening to the HFWB podcast series, this is your host, Clifton Pope, and y'all continue to stay healthy, wealthy, and blessed. Till next time, y'all. Salute.
Bye-bye.